We're back. It is time for Monday Night Football breakdown. Again, I'm going to be breaking down this two-game slate, just as I did with Adam earlier. But I'm also going to follow it up with talking about both of the showdown slates. I'll have to get both the main slate and the first showdown slate, the Tampa Bay Detroit showdown slate, before the 6 o'clock, 7 Eastern lock. And then after lock, I'll get into the second showdown just a bit, build some lineups there, see what the Sims like there. A little bit of a tricky spot right here because we just got the news that Emeka Egbuka is going to play tonight, which is not how things are currently in Run the Sims and other places around the industry, not projecting Egbuka to be in. So that's going to drastically affect ownership. So we're gonna have to kind of play it by ear throughout the course of this show, see how I'll have to update things. Ownership is going to change with Egbuka being active. That's going to have a cascading effect on ownership everywhere else as well. And yeah, as Prep says, now to determine whether he is a decoy or not. Exactly. And that's the other thing. Like, we're kind of waiting on any kind of, rumblings about his role. I did not think he was going to play tonight. I think it's kind of foolish that they're letting him play tonight. I feel like this has the makings of a Brock Bowers situation, but what do I know? I don't actually know how he's feeling. Maybe he does feel 100% at this point. Maybe it was not as significant of an injury as they thought it was. So, and I kind of assumed that that they wouldn't run him out there if he was like seriously limited. Like they have to kind of think, you have to kind of think that he's, feeling well enough that they're not too worried about the injury if they use him significantly. I don't know. I have kind of two minds about Emeka Egbuka right now, because again, I think it's foolish if he's injured at all. I think it's foolish for them to even run him out there. But maybe he's healthier than I think he is. So we'll get into that when we get to the wide receivers. All right, Jake says Egbuka looks great in pregame warmups. Maybe he just wasn't as hurt as I thought he was initially. So that's it's good news. Good news for everybody. Let's get into. We're gonna again start with quarterbacks, then go to running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, defenses. I'll build some lineups for the main slate, then we'll get into the showdown slate as well. One thing I will shout out is if you listened to my show earlier, spoiler alert, I really think Jalen Knoll might have a bigger workload tonight than most people are expecting, as the only like true slot receiver remaining on the Texans. I expect him to get a lot of run. I did get him on pick 6 at 11.5 receiving yards is the over. So still not projecting for much, but I really liked that over 11.5. It is up to 13.5 last I looked, which I still think is good. So if you play pick 6 or you play on the pick'em sites at all, I think if you can get him at like sub 15.5, I still think that's pretty good. I think that's probably even a better way to get some action on the potential that Jalen Knoll runs a lot more than we're expecting. That's probably even better than DFS, because he could run a lot of routes, and in the slot role for the Tech, what's that actually worth? I mean, Justin Watson, when he was doing it, was getting targeted twice per game. A little bit better with Christian Kirk, was targeted, I think, 4, and 8 times in the slot role. So kind of remains to be seen how much of a target Knoll will actually be. But I think 11.5, 13.5, even if he gets up to like 15.5, I think it would probably take the over on Knoll. But that's just instinct. This is not me having run Sims or anything. You can debate what the actual role will be, even if he does run a lot of routes from the slot. All right, let's get into the quarterback position here. And again, the quarterbacks might change a bit based on the Egbuka news. Maybe makes Baker Mayfield pop a little bit more. Let me refresh this just to see if we have any update here. It's tough because now Run the Sims also has to wait for everybody else to update. That will, change the ownership based on how everybody else updates. So there is really a kind of a wait and see as everywhere updates their stuff. They currently don't have Egbuka in, so we're gonna have to. We'll see if that's still the case in 20 minutes, and if he's still out, I'll have to change that before I run the Sims, give him some of the market share there. But Baker, as of right now, projected for 31% ownership. Jared Goff projected for 33% ownership. Jared Goff, to me, looks like the best play on the slate of the quarterbacks. He's 6,000. The Lions have the highest implied team total of the slate at 29.5, 6 points better than the Bucs, who have the second highest implied team total of the slate. So the Lions are expected to score the most points pretty significantly here. Now they are a low pass rate over expectation team. They are, I think, they're 27th in terms of pass rate over expectation. So from that standpoint, yeah, they don't throw quite as much as other teams, but it is a nice matchup from a schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed matchup. It is the 10th best matchup for the Lions against Tampa. You get that $600 price savings. So ultimately, I think that these are my two favorite quarterbacks on the slate. That's not really a hot take. You 6,000 though for Goff, not that much more expensive than the other quarterbacks below him, Darnold and Stroud here. The price is right. Best implied team total. I think strong weapons, easy to stack him. So all things considered, I think that Goff is the best quarterback play on the slate. Mayfield a step behind because he is actually more expensive. So you actually like the price savings from Mayfield down to Stroud and Darnold. It's actually pretty significant from 6,600 down to 5,200, 5,400. I mean, if you play Stroud or Darnold, they're cheap enough that even if Baker outscores them by 5, 6, 7 points, the ability to get up to Jahmyr Gibbs and 3 pay up wide receivers might be enough that it's still worth paying down, even if they're getting outscored by Baker Mayfield. So I do think, so Goff to me is like the pretty clear number one because he's not that much more expensive than the Houston and Seattle quarterbacks. But after Goff, I think it's kind of even. Baker being the most likely to put up a big score, but also the most expensive. Probably still the quarterback I'd like to get to the second most, and then Darnold and Stroud. Well, I guess we can take a look at them. First of all, though, let's take a look at just schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to the quarterback position. It is, again, 9th best matchup for Baker Mayfield in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed, 10th best matchup for Jared Goff from that standpoint. And then middling matchup, this is like right in the middle of the pack for CJ Stroud, but Seattle did just get some defensive pieces back that makes it a little bit tougher. I think of this as being kind of a below average matchup overall. Maybe this is skewed by some games where the defense was banged up a little bit, but maybe not much below average. And then it is the worst possible matchup for Sam Darnold. So I probably rank Sam Darnold the worst of the group. Of course, he does have JSN. They have been able to put up some points. So I'm not taking any. I think I'll have double digits on all of these quarterbacks, I guess is my takeaway. If I were making just one lineup hand built, it would be a Jared Goff lineup. If I were to make two lineups, my second lineup would be a Baker Mayfield lineup. And then from there, I don't. Maybe I just keep going back to those quarterbacks until I get to like 5 or 6. But yeah, I think quarterbacks from the first game are stronger, but there are benefits to going to a Stroud or a Darnold because the price savings can actually matter here. Egbuka under or over 25% ownership is a good question. I'm going to wait and see what the sites say. Actually, let me see if any of the other sites have updated for Egbuka. Does not look like. All right. First site I'm looking at does have him at pretty low ownership. Does RG have him in yet? I'll get back to running backs in a second. I don't think I have anything else really to say about quarterbacks other than stack them up. Like, yeah, I think all of these quarterbacks you should be stacking. I like the idea of overstacking on this slate more than understacking in general. Yeah, Guka, the ownership not updated yet. They have him for 10 fantasy points. So he is being docked. Both places I've looked so far, looks like we're getting a little bit of a dock on Egbuka's projection. So the expectation, I think, around the industry is that he's going to be limited. And if he's getting docked in terms of projection everywhere, that's probably going to be in lower ownership as well. So if you want to believe that he is going to get higher ownership, Ryan says 30% for FanDuel. What's the price tag on FanDuel? I actually was not able to log into FanDuel just now. I don't know if that's a universal error or just me, but could not get into my FanDuel account, which I've heard of from other people for years. Like they can't get in. This is the first time it's happened to me. I've never actually had that issue. Steve, we'll see if I have time. I will look at FanDuel also. It's a little bit tougher because I have to make my lineups for both the main and the showdown slates. So this one can be tougher timing wise, but I'll try to as I'm running the sims if I can find the time. yeah, on that note, in the interest of time, I will move on to running backs. This one we have several split running back teams here, starting with um, starting with Tampa. I guess we'll start with Tampa. They're the first. Rachaad White projected for 6,400, projected for 60% ownership. I would think that maybe the expensive running backs come down a little bit because Agbuka becomes in place. We have one more pay up wide receiver option. So maybe we lose just a little bit on the running backs, but Rachaad White going to remain chalky. 6,400, really strong projection here. Again, you just look at the two games for, let's see if I still have this pulled up. Yes, I do. The two games for the Bucs without Bucky Irving, Rachaad White has 31 carries and 7 targets on 63.5% route participation. So we're looking at, 15 to 16 carries per game on average, 15.5, 3.5 targets per game, 63.5% route participation. I think we could see these numbers come up even. I mean, he's getting more than 3/4 of the carries in the games, or running back carries, I should say, in the games without Bucky Irving. All the coach speak is like, yeah, we view him as a lead back. We think that we have two lead backs with Rachaad White and Bucky, so we can just lean on Rachaad White with Bucky out. So I think they're going to continue to lean on Bucky Irving. I do think that Sean Tucker is a talented running back, so maybe at some point we do see it, but so far they've been leaning on Bucky Irving. I think all indications are that that's intentional. They really not Rachaad White. That's intentional. They seem to believe in Rachaad White's ability as a lead back. So I think most likely they do continue to lean on Rachaad White. Trying to find the quote here, but October 6th, Todd Bowles said, "We still see Rachaad White as a lead back. We just have two of them now with him and Bucky Irving. We count on him a lot." And that's right in line with what they're doing. So when they're saying it, they're doing it. I think they're probably going to most likely stick to it with Rachaad White being the lead back here. Sean Tucker, we did see it last year. Like, he can come in and just flash, and maybe if he comes in and on his handful of carries looks better than Rachaad White today, he could earn more. That would not be that shocking, but he's kind of a tournament dart throw. Probably not playing him in, my first 20 lineups. Probably need to be in a 40 lineups before I get to Sean Tucker. Because we do have, it's not the strongest running back slate, but we do have some decent options here. So okay, yeah, Sean Tucker, maybe 30 or so before I get to Sean Tucker. I think I probably will end up with 4 or 5% Sean Tucker, I would think, is where I'd like to be, because I think that he has shown the ability to just flash and score touchdowns and have some breakaway plays, and only getting 2% ownership. So that is pretty nice on Sean Tucker. As far as the matchup with Detroit, this is the 8th worst matchup for running backs, below average both through the air and on the ground. So not a great matchup, but the workload, I think, for Rachaad White and the price is good enough that he's still something to prioritize. I don't know that I'll get to 60%. I think I might end up slightly south of 60%, just as I try to get more of the more contrarian running backs, but probably he makes it into 45, 50% of my lineups. One of the priorities there. And then again, Sean Tucker, a slightly lesser priority. I should not slightly lesser priority, much lesser priority, just somebody to mix in large field tournaments. Jahmyr Gibbs, I like better than Rachaad White. Gibbs is 7,500, so not that much more expensive than Rachaad White. Projected for 66% ownership, not that much more than Rachaad White, and I think just a lot better than Rachaad White. The matchup for Detroit, it is a tough matchup with Tampa Bay. As you can see here, it's actually positive through the air. So, technically, I guess through the air, it benefits Jahmyr Gibbs, but it is -3 below neutral for running backs against Tampa Bay on the ground. Especially good when Vita Vea is there. So not exactly a great matchup, but I think Jahmyr Gibbs just talented enough that I'm not super concerned about matchups in general on the season. Really strong workload for Gibbs, 87 carries in 6 games, and then 25 targets on 52.5% route participation, so just over 4 targets per game. looks great and just an explosive running back. Can fail. I think at this price tag, it is certainly possible for Jahmyr Gibbs to fail, but I think he is probably the top option for me on this slate as the clear best running back on the slate, and not like pulling away in terms of ownership. So like Gibbs quite a bit. Again, I don't know, 66%. Maybe I'll get to 55, 60%. Again, just because I think I'll probably prioritize getting to more than the field on the more contrarian options. So then the chalkier guys, I probably end up a little bit underweight. But that's not because I want less than 66%. Like if I can fit him in, I would love to get 66% of Gibbs. I just suspect I'll end up lower because I want to get more of like Sean Tucker at 2%. I probably want 5%. David Montgomery at 14%. I might want 25% David Montgomery. Montgomery, 5,500, has a fairly strong workload as well. Now, relative to Jahmyr Gibbs, doesn't look that great, but 65 carries on the season in 6 games for Dave Montgomery. He's getting more than 10 carries per game, and also 10 targets. So, 1.5, little over 1.5 targets per game on 23% route participation. So we can compare David Montgomery to like the Seattle guys, 65 carries, 10 targets. The Seahawks guys, Kenneth Walker, I guess, has 78 carries and 9 targets. So he does have kind of significantly more, 2 more carries per game for Kenneth Walker, and then he has 1 less target on the season and slightly more route participation. So slightly better role for Kenneth Walker, and then a clearly better role for David Montgomery than Zach Charbonnet, who has 60 carries and 5 targets on the season. Actually, man, now that I say it, I guess I kind of have to take that back because 60 carries on the season for Charbonnet. What do we have Montgomery at again? 65. So it's actually not that many more. And then Charbonnet, as Adam noted earlier, Charbonnet's role has actually gotten better in the passing game recently. So maybe we have to take it back that he actually has a better role than the both the Seattle guys. Like they both have decent roles here. Charbonnet up to 3 targets on 46% route participation over the past 2 games, which maybe ultimately has a similar to even slightly better role. The matchup a little bit better for the Lions. The coach speak, you could interpret it as a better spot here. As bullish for David Montgomery. Let me pull that up. On the October 14th, Dan Campbell said on the backfield split between Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, he said, "We certainly don't want either one of them getting too much. I know that it's a little more tilted towards Jahmyr right now, and a lot of that comes in the 2-minute reps. I would like to balance him out. I would like to give David some more, find a place to get him a few more. We were hoping we were going to be able to do that in the second half of the Chiefs game some more, but it turned into a different type of game." My ultimate takeaway here is it's kind of a minor thing for Dan Campbell that he would like to get a little bit more David Montgomery, but it's not going to force it with David Montgomery. Like he said, the game script didn't work out, so we didn't get him in there. So maybe like if it works out perfectly that he can give David Montgomery a few more touches, maybe he will give Montgomery some more work. I do think it's a positive. Like I do take that coach speak to be positive that he says he'd like to get him more work. Obviously, like that is a positive thing, but it's not a huge thing to me. But David Montgomery, a strong enough running back, 5,500, nice enough price tag, and then 14% protected ownership. That is all appealing to me. And he's David Montgomery, not one that usually gets steamed. Like that he got steamed in the one game going back to Cincinnati. I think that was more the matchup than anything. I don't think people are usually that excited to play David Montgomery. My instinct, and this could be totally wrong, but my instinct is that Vita Vea affects David Montgomery more than Jahmyr Gibbs, just because Vita Vea to me is like, you're not going to be able to run through him at the line, whereas like maybe you throw it to Jahmyr Gibbs past the line of scrimmage, harder for Vita Vea to affect that. That could be totally wrong. That is my instinct as a football watcher, but not like a hardcore football guy who's constantly studying all the film. But that is my instinct, is that Vita Vea, that tough defensive line, probably worse for David Montgomery than Jahmyr Gibbs. But I think both are strong plays regardless. The prices are nice, and the ownership is lower on Montgomery, so it looks pretty good to me. All right. Um, Maybe Neil could highlight the name of the player he is talking about. Um, Charles says every single channel I watch says a player's name once and then says him, and I have to scroll back to figure out who they're talking about. Well, apologies. I will try to repeat the name so you don't have to scroll back. I'm talking about Dave Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. I think both are fairly strong plays, and I like playing them together. As usual, that's kind of been something that I'm always a proponent of. Is on these shorter slates you can play running backs from the same team together. I think that makes sense here. If they can just get rolling against the Bucs, I think they'll continue to run it and they'll alternate the running backs. So absolutely, you can play both of the Detroit running backs together. I would say the same thing actually about the Bucs running backs. If you want to play Rashad White and Sean Tucker, like the same kind of idea applies. That if they are able to get running, maybe they just continue to run on them and they use both running backs significantly. Excuse me. So feel free to play them together. And this is a slate that I think sets up well for playing running backs together. Man, you can see that I've spent too much time talking today. All right, after doing 2 hours with Adam, starting this one. Let's get so on the Texan side. Let me take a drink of water. Woody Marks, Nick Chubb. I left my tabs open from the show with Adam earlier. So in week 4, this one week 5, yeah. Hang on. Good. All right. So week 4, Woody Marks, exciting rookie running back. I say exciting. He actually was not like a highly regarded rookie coming in really, but was starting to look exciting. Week 4 had a really good game, 17 carries in that game, 5 targets on 43.8% route participation, looking like he's going to be a fantasy star. And everybody kind of assumed it was going to be Woody Marks taking over. He played 58.5% of the snaps in that game, looked great. And then week 5, this is before the bye. They had their bye last week. Went right back to Nick Chubb. Woody Marks still played 37.9% of the snaps. Nick Chubb 34.8% of the snaps. Nick Chubb had 11 carries leading the group. Woody Marks at just 7. Damian Pierce also came in and played, got 7 carries. And then Woody Marks down to 1 target on 28.6% route participation. Ultimately, I don't know what they're going to do coming out of the bye. It is post bye. Woody Marks is a rookie. Maybe we see a post bye rookie bump for Woody Marks. We can at least dream. We can hope that Woody Marks is going to take a step forward. I would be surprised if Nick Chubb takes on a bigger role again than he had last time out. Like, I think Woody Marks is the only one on the Texans who's really shown like the ability to pop off. So I think it's more likely that Woody Marks sees an increase in workload than it is that Nick Chubb does. Obviously could happen. Nick Chubb could score a touchdown. He could look great, but it's a not ideal matchup. Both are getting about the same ownership. If they're going to get the same ownership, give me the one who is more likely to be involved as a pass catcher and has shown the ability to just take on more workload. Again, just going back 2 games, we saw Woody Marks actually looked like he was coming on, taking a bell cow role. If he can get this role again, 5 targets and 17 carries, like if we knew he was going to get 17 carries and 5 targets at 12% ownership, 5,200, he'd be a player I'd want in like 70% of my lineups. We don't know that, and it doesn't seem likely after he took a step back in the last game. So I'm not going to get to 70%, but I do think I want to have 20% Woody Marks, and I'll probably be under the field on Nick Chubb. If we look at, I mean, Nick Chubb did have the one really strong fantasy game. Let me see if I have the fantasy report pulled up. Fantasy points scored. Yeah, let's see. 2025. Running backs. 15.2 for Nick Chubb. Other than that, it's been 6, 7, 8, 12. 12, I guess, could be enough at 5,000 on a 2-game slate, but generally, like, I'm not that scared of Nick Chubb crushing me. It's within the range of outcomes. But look at Woody Marks. When Woody Marks has a good game, it's 27.9. So my preference is Woody Marks pretty significantly. Maybe I'll get to 5% Chubb, 20% Woody Marks. Call it good there. Uh, Damian Pierce, who knows if he is going to be active? The hope is that Damian Pierce will not be active, as at least as far as DFS goes. Hoping that he's not going to be involved, but he did come in and played a role in the most recent game. Let me just double check the coach week index. Yeah, on the second offensive coordinator, Nick Caley said Woody Marks is a good runner. He has good vision and good explosive traits. He can catch the ball naturally. He's a violent pass protector. I've been very pleased with his development. It's been steady since he's been here. I don't know. I don't know what happened on the first October 1st. Head coach D'Amico Ryan said on whether Ryan's anticipates Woody Marks' touches to continue to rise. He said every game is different. Whatever touches Woody gets, he's continued to make the most of them. You've seen what Woody has done in the run and pass game. He's earned the opportunity to get more opportunities. So that was on October 1st. I think that was that before? Let's see. So they were off last week on the, I guess, 12th. So they played on the 5th, and that was the game that Nick Chubb got more. So this was after the big game for Woody Marks. I don't know. I'm gonna hope that the last game was a kind of a blip on the radar. All right, Mike says I saw somewhere Marks was ineffective as a pass blocker, which is why he did not see the playing time we thought he would receive. Okay, that's interesting. That makes sense because part of the reason they were talking him up was like he's looked good as a pass catcher. Maybe after a couple weeks, after some bye week, talking through it, working through the issues, they're going to give him another shot. Maybe this is just me, kind of dreaming of the rookie taking a big step forward. But I think I want to take my shots on Woody Marks over Nick Chubb. So yeah, I anticipate getting to 20% or so of Woody Marks. 5 to 7%. Nick Chubb is where I'd like to be. I don't think I'm playing any Damian Pierce. Damian Pierce, I guess, is a guy you can consider if like your lineup is way behind and you like just need to do something miraculous to cash. You could consider, I guess, Damian Pierce. But if he's active, which we're not going to know that on this show, if Damian Pierce is active, those inactives will be after I am done here. But I guess he's like, if you need a dart throw to try to cash a dead lineup, you try somebody like Damian Pierce, like if he allows you to get to a high price option or something. But yeah, not somebody that I plan to get to going in. Do we get? I don't think I saw Lions inactives. I looked at the Bucs inactives before I started, but I did not actually look at Lions inactives. So let me just make sure I'm not missing anything there as we're going. No, looks like it is as expected. Kirby Joseph is out. Avonte Maddox is out. Terry and Arnold missing a lot of their defenders. Yeah, all defense guys. That's kind of nice for the Buccaneers at least. And then on the Seattle side, the coach speak. They want to use both backs. They have been using both backs. We kind of already looked at the usage here for Seattle. But I think the last couple weeks, pretty clear that a lot of us kind of hoping that Kenneth Walker would take on more of a workload. That has not really happened. I'm going to put up the workload for the past couple games on the screen while I read off some quotes from the coaches. So this is the workload just from the past two games for Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker here. I'm actually going to zoom so you can see it a little easier. And then if you want to read that, I'm just going to read off the coach quotes because we have a lot of them recently. People have been asking about the running back split and like just this week we have a few. So on October 16th, head coach Mike McDonald said on whether Kenneth Walker is earning a higher percentage of reps, given that the offense has been more effective with him on the field. So people pointed out to him, hey, the offense is better with Kenneth Walker on the field. He said, we take stats into account on how effective we are and who's out there, but we have a plan on how we want to use our guys. And both guys are playing high-level football for us. Both guys have things we want to work on. We love both guys. Both guys are going to keep playing for us. On what McDonald likes about Zach Charbonnet in the 2-minute role, he said, he's got great hands, great with the protections, decisive. Ken can do those things too. It's not like an either or type of thing, but I think Zach's excellent at it. On the 17th, offense coordinator Clint Kubiak on whether there's a time to think about giving more work to Kenneth Walker, given that the offense has been more effective when Walker is on the field. He said, certainly earned more. That's something that we want to keep getting him more opportunities. He's doing a heck of a job. But I don't want to discount Zach Charbonnet and don't want to discount George Holani. Those are really good backs, and it's going to take all three of them this season. On what Walker has done to earn more opportunities, he said his practice habits. I keep seeing him improve as a practice player, the way that he finishes runs, his tracks. He's very intentional about the things we're asking him to work on and very self-motivated. On the 18th, head coach Mike McDonald said, Kenneth Walker has always had incredible practice habits, as does Zach Charbonnet and George Holani, but it's important to get all the reps. It takes muscle memory to get the tracks right and be confident in those things and keep the consistency going. I think that's what you're seeing with Ken. He's gaining more confidence with those little details, and he did a great job this week, but his effort and intent has always been there. He's a great practice player. So, I mean, it does sound like we're getting a lot of like sort of positive coach speak on Kenneth Walker, but it's always like with the Zach Charbonnet is also great. We also love Zach Charbonnet. There's also, I forget who they said they're studying, but like they're talking about how, we're looking into how we're going to split things up, and we're studying some of these other backfields on how to split running backs. Ultimately, over the past two games, Zach Charbonnet 59% of the snaps to 38% for Kenneth Walker. 21 carries for Zach Charbonnet, 20 for Kenneth Walker, 3 targets for Zach Charbonnet, 2 for Kenneth Walker. So more rushing attempts, more targets, more expected fantasy points. All of that goes to Kenneth Walker. It is also a tough matchup here with Houston. Should note that it is the, I believe, third worst in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to the running back position. I don't know. This is I want to play Kenneth Walker. So my instinct is to say Kenneth Walker is better. Also, as Jack points out, it is Kenneth Walker's birthday today. So if you want to factor in narrative, you got that going for Kenneth Walker. Like people keep pointing out to them so that they cannot forget, like, hey, Kenneth Walker has been a lot better. You're a lot better when you play Kenneth Walker. At some point, you got to think, hey, maybe this seeps into their mind that maybe we should use the running back as better. But presumably they look at these stats. They don't need to be reminded. They know that Kenneth Walker has played a lot better. And for some reason, they're still just playing a ton of Zach Charbonnet. Typically in tougher matchups, I prefer the pass catching running backs just because it's easier to score fantasy points if you're getting those short dump offs. So there are things going for Kenneth Walker here, also getting lesser ownership here. So I guess at lesser ownership, Zach Charbonnet kind of interesting. It's really tough for me to prioritize either of them. Just given that Kenneth Walker is getting 32% ownership. I think that if the ownership were flipped here, if it were Charbonnet getting 32%, Walker getting 20%, I would lean on the running back who is more explosive in Kenneth Walker, the one who's just more likely to have a splash play and break things. But because Kenneth Walker is the one getting more ownership and he's more expensive, I don't really see a huge priority. I think probably I want to get to about 20% of each. Again, it's a tough matchup. The reason I can't get to even less is just because this is a tough slate for running back. So if we do get, a 40-yard touchdown from Kenneth Walker, like I think that probably is enough. Like you're probably going to want him in your lineup if you get that from Kenneth Walker. Similarly, if Zach Charbonnet, suddenly gets 5, targets and catches all of them, he might look good. So I'm not going to like totally full fade or anything, but I don't see priorities. So I think ultimately I probably come in with the field on Zach Charbonnet, maybe a little bit under the field on Kenneth Walker. This is probably a wide receiver in the flex slate for me for the most part. So I suspect that I'm going to be with or under the field. So I think I want to have at least 20% of each. I guess I will say that. I think both are like good enough plays that like 20% feels about right. I don't think that I want 30-40% of these guys. No real priorities. This is a really tough running back slate in general, I would say, and I'm not getting to any George Holani at 4,000. But yeah, I think like a lot of lineups I'll have Rachaad White, and a lot of lineups I'll have Jahmyr Gibbs, and then I'll kind of be spreading it out from there. I think after those two, My favorite is probably David Montgomery and then Woody Marks as a contrarian play, and then maybe Kenneth Walker and then Zach Charbonnet. I don't know. It's a tough one to break down, but like there's a clear tier. Like the top tier is Rachaad White and Jahmyr Gibbs, and then it's a big gap down, I would say, to the rest of the running backs. You're kind of just like who's going to score the touchdown or have the breakaway play, I think is kind of what it's going to come down to. So I'm going to be spreading out my exposure beyond Jahmyr Gibbs and Rachaad White. All right. This is a brutal matchup. Charbonnet might be better, as the pass catching back. That's could be. All right. Broke even for Maine, doubled up on night slate. Pete coming close. Yeah, a lot of people. We had some nice wins yesterday in the showdowns. Definitely had a better day for showdowns than the main slate for me yesterday. So glad to see you guys also did well. By the way, if you have not already done so, this is a good time to remind you, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the NFL season. Would appreciate your support. Also, if you're not already in the Flaniverse Discord, it is free to join. There's a link in the description of this video, so feel free to check that out if you're interested in joining a Discord, talking about DFS, best ball, whatever else you want to talk about. Let's move on to wide receivers, because the running backs are... I have fewer takes that are different from the field. I think I'm going to be getting different more at wide receiver than I am at running back. And also, I'm going to refresh this before we get into it, because I want to see if they've updated anything. All right, Egbuka is in. Okay, so Run the Sims is using a much higher ownership projection on Egbuka than other places have him. Let's see if RG has changed. Again, these are things that are like they're up to 25% projected ownership, still at just 10 fantasy points for Egbuka. We'll start with this one, which is the toughest game to break down. But I guess with Evans back and Egbuka, we do have some sample size of what they at least used to do with both there. Evans 6,500 projected for 15.5 fantasy points, 49% ownership. Now we can go back to weeks 1 through 3, and maybe that is what I'll do. I'm gonna pull up just those weeks, because weeks 1 through 3 we had both Egbuka and Evans and no Chris Godwin, which is what we have now. So in those weeks, Mike Evans, 27 targets on 78.3% route participation. Emeka Egbuka, 21 targets on 82.6% route participation. And then we had Sterling Shepard at that point as the clear wide receiver 3 and primary slot receiver, 56% of his routes in the slot. And even then, Emeka Egbuka at 43%. So I guess Sterling Shepard not really just a slot receiver anymore. They're using Egbuka there some. They're moving people around more than maybe I had thought they used to do with Sterling Shepard. But so Evans, pretty great role. He's again 27 targets, 78.3% route participation. The tough thing here is we get Mike Evans returning after a 3-game absence. Let's see, do I have the route share report up here? Yeah. So Mike Evans, missed weeks 4, 5, and 6. Evans could be limited. We also have Egbuka, who had a hamstring injury, didn't practice until Friday. Apparently looks good in practice, so maybe he is a full go. I guess that's probably a reasonable assumption, is that he is at least a full go as of right now, just with some risk associated with an in-game injury. Like I think that is the big risk with Egbuka right now, is in-game injury is pretty real risk, I would think, for a hamstring. Like, and he had been, I think, already playing through it. I seem to recall a few weeks ago there was a point in the game where they had Egbuka held out on the sideline, getting massaged on his hamstring. So seems like he's been dealing with this, and it's getting worse week over week. So I don't know. I am not an injury expert. So I don't want to really speculate on the odds of Egbuka getting aggravating his injury or being limited and them using him in a limited capacity here. But it seems to me like it keeps getting worse. Like it's been a recurring thing. I'm pretty surprised that they are playing him here, but it does seem to indicate to me that it's because he's feeling better. I don't think that they would be running him out there if he was saying like, yeah, my hamstring doesn't feel quite right. Like I think it just means like, yeah, he's feeling good. So they're using Egbuka, probably going to be running as long as he doesn't re-aggravate it, probably going to be a full-time player. I think is the likeliest scenario here. Again, I don't know. Keep your ear to the TVs in case they say anything about like what the coaches are telling them, and please let me know if you hear anything from the broadcasts on like the expectations for Egbuka. But my assumption, without hearing anything, would be they wouldn't play Egbuka if they're planning on him being limited. I think with a hamstring, it'd be kind of surprising. I think it'd be different if it was like, I don't know, a shoulder, a forearm. I don't know what a different injury where it might be lesser odds of re-aggravating as a decoy, but like a hamstring, even if they're using them as a decoy, like you're at risk if you're just like running the routes. Hamstring, you could re-aggravate it. So my assumption is Egbuka is a full go here, is the way they're planning to use him, just with higher risk for re-aggravation in game. He is 7,000, so there's some risk there. If he comes in at 36% ownership, which this is the highest that I've seen, I think that's probably fine. That's probably about where I would like to be. If he does come in lower owned because of the re-aggravation risk or the risk that he's going to be limited, um, then I'd be pretty interested in getting different by playing above the field on Egbuka. This is an easier slate to break down when Egbuka was going to be out. But yeah, if he comes in at and again, this is the highest ownership I've seen is what Run the Sims has here at 36%. I think at 36%, I probably just try to match the field. I think this is about where I would like to be. So I think the way I'm going to play this is, if I can, is yeah, I'm just going to be right with the field or at this projected ownership. If he does come in at like 18% ownership, I'd be pretty happy to be double the field on Egbuka just because he's been a stud. He's been pretty great when he's been out there. Um, Matt says Egbuka will be running full snaps but get minimal targets. Why would that be? I guess wouldn't understand the logic there in getting limited targets if he is a full go. Um, let's see. SC says just jamming Shepard, even if reports are that Egbuka is a full go, literally less than 2% of hamstring injuries are playable the following week. I mean, yeah, I guess that's fair. I guess I'm just surprised that he's even playing. The fact that they were playing him, to me, like I don't think they would play him if they're like, yeah, he's super injured, like he is in a lot of pain, but we're just gonna run him out there anyway because it's a hamstring. Like the hamstring you re-aggravate pretty easily. So I think 36% feels about right for Egbuka. Evans could also benefit from Egbuka if he does re-aggravate during the game. He's being projected for 49% ownership. That seems reasonable. 49% looks okay for Mike Evans at 6,500. Again, 27 targets in their 3 games together early in the season. And then again, in those 3 games early in the season, it was Sterling Shepard who was running the most reps, getting the most playing time for the Buccaneers. He ran 73% of the routes, saw 15 targets in those 3 games with Evans and Egbuka there, and primarily in the slot with Godwin out. So Shepard, I think, is a pretty good play regardless. I mean, that's 5 targets per game in over that span, even with Egbuka and Evans there, and then could benefit from either one of them being out. So I think Shepard is a fairly strong play at 15% ownership. Again, this is not one where I'm planning to take a big stand, but I think I'd like to be double digit exposure to Shepard. I think Tez Johnson, we'll see this ownership come down on Tez Johnson. If he did come in at 14%, I would just not play Tez Johnson, I think, because I think Sterling Shepard the most likely to be running those routes. But it is worth noting, like the one concern, I guess, potentially for Shepard is Tez Johnson, 84% route participation in week 6, played more than Sterling Shepard did in that game with Evans out and Egbuka limited. it's possible that Tez Johnson is, taking a step forward. He's ascending as the season goes on, whereas the veteran Sterling Shepard may be taking a back seat. So there is some risk there to Sterling Shepard, which is why ultimately I don't think I'm taking any major stand. I'm not going to be like 30% Sterling Shepard. There are other players that I like better who are cheap contrarian receiver options. So I think Sterling Shepard is like he's a fairly strong play. He's the most likely to still be the wide receiver 3, I think. But there's a little more risk right now because we've seen Tez Johnson take on a bigger role. He's somebody to mix in, I think, for large field tournaments at 14%. Again, I would not have a ton of interest in Tez Johnson. I'd probably be half this if he comes in at 14%. Maybe I get to 5, 6, 7%. And Sterling Shepard, I don't really see myself getting to more than like 15%. But it is a pretty strong. Again, this is the better game environment. The matchup against Detroit. This is a third best matchup for receivers against Detroit so far this year. Best for slot receivers, which benefits Sterling Shepard, also benefits Egbuka, who runs a lot from the slot. So ultimately not taking, I think not taking any major stands here, I guess. So I think Evans at, right around 50% ownership looks good. Egbuka up 36% seems fine. Tez Johnson, if he's at 14%, that's too much in my opinion. Sterling Shepard, 15% seems fine. Not playing any Ryan Miller, Cameron Johnson. I think that's it as far as the Tampa guys. ETRS has at 5%. I think that's fair. Tez at 5% is fine. Like he could take on a bigger workload here. Yeah, with Egbuka back and Evans there, I don't know. Let's see. All right, let's move on to Detroit. A little bit easier to break down. We've got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8,200, projected for 51% ownership. Probably my favorite play of the slate, or my favorite spend up, I should say, of the slate at 8,200. Slightly beats out JSN for me just because of the matchup here. And Amon-Ra, like slightly worse workload than JSN so far on the season, but much better matchup on a team that's 29.5 implied team total on the season. 50 targets, 90.4% route participation for Amon-Ra St. Brown, and again 29.5 is a team total for the Lions, whereas you compare it to Nico Collins, 19 is a team total for the Texans. Seattle, 22 is the team total. So give me the receiver who's getting about the same workload in a much better matchup here with Tampa. In terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed, this is the 6th best matchup for receivers against Tampa. Now, I will note it doesn't look as good for slot receivers, actually a slight negative for slot receivers. Really nice matchup for receivers who line up out wide right. Now, if we look at the cornerback wide receiver matchup here, that benefits Isaac Tesla the most. But I think, we can, Amon-Ra will line up other places as well. Let's see, where is he lined up so far? 51.5% in the slot, 47.9% out wide. Ultimately, I think it's just a strong matchup for the receivers in general, but probably best, I guess, for Tesla. But Amon-Ra, only getting 51% ownership at 8,200 in a nice matchup with Tampa. High team total, looks great. My favorite spend up on the slate. Then you got JMO is 5,000, projected for 41% ownership. Hasn't honestly had a great role this year. I think a lot of people expecting him to take a step forward again this year. We haven't really seen it from Jamison Williams. 28 targets through 6 games. So what's that? Just four and a third targets per game. No, 4 2/3 targets per game. At 89.3% route. So he is running 89.3% of routes. That's pretty good. Just not a great target share for JMO. Just 16% target share. Again, strong matchup. The price is nice, and JMO always a guy that can just with one splash play break a slate. So I like JMO at 40% ownership, even with the not great role. Like he's too cheap, and we're considering Sterling Shepard at 4,500. Like in a vacuum, yeah, JMO just looks way better at 5,000 than Sterling Shepard at 4,500. Given the talent there, the ability to make a splash play. So I like him quite a bit at 41%. I don't think I like him enough to get more than like 50% probably. I think he's a strong play, but not he's boom bust. Like there is still a pretty good chance that he busts here, even in a nice matchup. So I like JMO quite a bit. I think I'll be slightly over the field, maybe at 41%, but not going to be making or breaking my slate. And then to me, Tesla and Khalif Raymond, I think I'm just leaning Tesla here. I think it's possible that Khalif Raymond was still limited last week. Again, my read going into that slate, which appears to have been wrong, I'm not sure, was that it was Khalif Raymond was the wide receiver 3. Tesla played behind him. Based on the coach speak, that was like, yeah, if Khalif Raymond is out, then Tesla will have his opportunity to take a big step forward, whatever. It turned out Khalif Raymond was back, and we still saw Tesla run 58.1% of the routes. So now I'm like led to assume that Tesla is just the wide receiver 3 here now, and he is cheap at 3,100 and projected for no ownership, has an ability to make some big plays here. Now, again, just I think 5 targets on the season, if I'm remembering right, for Tesla. Actually, I can pull that up. Yeah, 5 targets in 6 games on 32.1% route participation. So less than 1 target per game. But I think with the route participation growing as it has, with some of the big plays he's made in this nice matchup, as we saw for a wide receiver lining up out wide right, in particularly great against Tampa. I really like Tesla as a contrarian play. He's somebody that I probably want to have double-digit exposure to, and by double-digit exposure, I mean literally like 10%. Like I don't want to have a lot more than that. But I think he's a really fun dart throw. So one of my favorite dart throws on the slate, not my favorite. Somebody just asked in chat, is Noel still your favorite of the cheap wide receivers? Yeah, Noel is still my favorite value wide receiver. I will get there in a minute. Oh yeah, thanks for the reminder. Please do like the video. Let's get to 100 likes. Stingley Jr. on JSN. Yep. Really tough matchup there. And yeah, I don't think I'm going to get to Raymond. We have enough value options. If he scores a touchdown or something, maybe it buries me, but I think that we could still match him with some others, and not expecting him to be a full-time receiver. So I'll just take any shares that I would consider giving to Raymond. I'm just going to give them to Tesla instead. Houston, Seattle. So on the Houston side, Nico Collins, 7,100. So more expensive than Egbuka, than Evans, cheaper than Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he should be, and projected for 44% ownership. Looking at the role for Nico Collins so far this year, and they have already had their bye, so it's just 5 games, but 36 targets for Nico Collins. That's 14 fewer than Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's played just 1 more game. 81% route participation. The matchup not quite as good with Seattle. 4 receivers, actually, man, better than I realized. It actually is a strong matchup with Seattle. So I take that back. So far on the season, strong matchup for receivers against Seattle. In particular, receivers lining up out wide left. So let's take a look at that. Again, I think that's like a sample size thing where they're going to line up everywhere. We don't want to read too much into those like small minutia, but yeah, it is actually JSN who lines up out wide left. So I guess there is that. But wait, why? That's JSN. That's not what I mean. I'm looking up Nico Collins. I'm sorry. Too much time in front of a camera today. Losing my voice. Just losing my mind here. Nico Collins also out wide left. So good. All right, good. Nico Collins looks good here. Now they did get healthier. All of their, or at least all of the ones that I was tracking of their defenders. Rick Woolen is back here, so maybe they take a step up over the way Seattle has been playing defensively recently. Ultimately, though, I think 44% ownership is a fine number, probably about where I want to be. I might end up a little bit lower than that. I'd be surprised if I get much higher than that on Collins. So not trying to make or break my slate with Collins, but ultimately I think I'd be more likely to be under that than over, because I prefer Amon-Ra St. Brown over the other receivers here. Yeah, Aaron says, I believe Tesla has taken over the role, but the targets have not been coming. Yeah, exactly. But like the targets, the fact that they haven't been there yet, like I'm not really, I'm not going to write that off as like they're not going to come. He is still the wide receiver 3 here, so not like I don't think he's going to be targeted 7 or 8 times suddenly, but he is, he can just score a touchdown on 3 receptions and be enough at his price tag. So I think he is a strong option just given the low ownership, but still like fairly unlikely to hit double-digit fantasy points. So beyond Nico Collins, as I've noted, my favorite receiver of the remaining at ownership is Jalen Noel, and you can see we have some updates here. He's now projected for 9.4% target share. The ownership has also come up on Noel to 6.5%. So don't like that as much as I liked it at 1 to 4% everywhere this morning, but I still think at 6.5% for Jalen Noel, I think that is a really strong ownership number for. I am making the assumption that Jalen Noel is going to be the slot receiver for the Texans tonight. So I think he's going to run like 70% of routes. Could be wrong. It could be that they just don't use a slot receiver as much. They use more 2 tight end sets. There are a lot of ways for this to go. But if you just look at the way that they have run their routes so far on the season, Justin Watson has run 77% of his routes from the slot. Christian Kirk, 72.5%. Jalen Noel, 62%. And then it's a big drop down. Dalton Schultz, 40%. Xavier Hutchinson, 23%. So as far as receivers go, Hutchinson is the next most at 23%. So it's pretty clear like Jalen Noel is who they consider their slot receiver here. With Watson out and Christian Kirk out. So we had weeks 1 and 2, Christian Kirk was out, and it was Justin Watson running as the primary slot receiver, and Jalen Noel kind of working in behind him. And then Christian Kirk came back, the slot demon Christian Kirk, and he was the primary slot receiver for a few weeks, and then and Justin Watson has been hurt, so then it was Noel playing behind Kirk. So he's been playing a bit, but he has been consistently, they've had Jalen Noel second in line as the slot receiver. He did run 45.7% of routes last week, which is pretty promising to me that we did see the route participation increase. Oh, sorry, wait. Jalen Noel, 34.3%. That was Jaden Higgins, 45.7%. So never mind. 34.3% for Jalen Noel, higher than it's been since week 1 with Christian Kirk out. I think that we could see this with Kirk out this week after Kirk ran 54% last week. We could see Jalen Noel just step into 60, 70% route participation. I don't want to overstate this because in weeks 1 and 2 with Justin Watson as the primary slot receiver, just 2 targets per game. And then Kirk got more. He had 8 in I think week 3 and then 4 and 4. So like I don't want to make it sound like this is a slam dunk. Jalen Noel is going to have 8 targets in this game and crush. But I do think at low ownership, there's a pretty good chance that we get a handful of targets to Jalen Noel. So I'm going to be taking a pretty big stand here and have maybe 20% Jalen Noel in my lineups. Like I do want that to be a stand for me because I think should be the primary slot receiver here. We did see at least one game where Christian Kirk was targeted 8 times. And it's a decent matchup, I believe, for slot receivers against Seattle. Yeah, it's like the 11th best schedule adjusted matchup for slot receivers against Seattle. Not that that's worth. It's pretty close to neutral there, but all things considered, just I don't think he's being projected as the primary slot receiver. Now he looks like he is actually at Run the Sims. 9.4% target share here seems reasonable for Jalen Noel. We'll see if that gets into some lineups. The ownership did come up a little bit, so hate to see that, but I think Noel is a pretty strong play. But I don't think he's the only strong player. I think Hutchinson, Higgins also make a lot of sense. If you look at the prop markets, as I noted, like Jalen Noel was last I looked up to 13.5 was the receiving line for Noel. Higgins was like double that. I think he was 26.5. So I'm maybe on an island in expecting Jalen Noel to be the one who takes the biggest leap here as far as workload. But Jaden Higgins already, as we saw last week, up to 45.7% route participation. That was his highest of the season. He could, indirectly, even without running those slot routes, Higgins could benefit from other receivers who had been playing some out wide and some in the slot. They move more to the slot. He gets more of that out wide activity. So there are ways for Higgins to indirectly benefit as well. And we've already seen him kind of ascending. Now we get the post-bye rookie bump potentially. So I do like Higgins quite a bit as well. He is next priority for me. These are two of my favorite contrarian plays on the slate, Higgins and Knoll. So again, I like Knoll slightly better. But Higgins, I think, is also a really strong contrarian play at 3,500. I'm going to try to be above weight on both Higgins and Knoll. Xavier Hutchinson, 62.9% route participation in week 5. Did score 2 touchdowns in that game. Excuse me. I think that was kind of a fluke in a game where they just scored a ton of points. He is a lesser priority for me, but still I'll probably be around the field at about 5% for $3,900 Xavier Hutchinson. I think he's fine. Just I think it's more likely that the rookies ascend here, I think. So I'd rather play Nolan Higgins, but Hutchinson at 5% ownership, also a totally serviceable contrarian play. Seattle, a little bit easier to break down. JSN, I mean, a lot of people have been calling him Mini Puka. If you think he's Mini Puka, then he's going to look really good on a 2-game slate. JSN 7,900, projected for 50% ownership. I think the role maybe Mini Puka maybe overstates the role. Maybe he's Mini Puka in the way he has performed so far this year, but 55 targets on the season for JSN because they're just not throwing it as much. So 55. Don't get me wrong, that's a lot of targets. Where's Puka in terms of targets? 65, and that's after getting hurt in a game. So I get 10 more through 6 games. But again, really strong role for JSN, just under. Just over, I guess, 9 targets per game for JSN, 86.8% route participation, and he has been absolutely crushing with those targets. Having an amazing year. Seems to be a really strong player, taking a big step this year. I like him. I think JSN around 50% ownership seems fine. Again, my preference is Amon-Ra St. Brown. I was talking with Adam. He prefers JSN. I think we're kind of splitting hairs. I think they're both two of the strongest, probably the 2 strongest pay up options on the slate, even ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. So JSN looks awesome. Going to have him in at least half my lineups. Cooper Kupp, 4,800 projected here for 25% ownership. I suspect I'll come in a bit underweight on Cooper Kupp. And again, we can look at schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed to receivers. Really tough matchup with Houston. Second worst matchup in terms of schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed, and it's negative for every receiver on the board. So I'll be underweight if Cooper Kupp comes in at 25%. I want double digits. I'll probably get 10 to 15% Cooper Kupp, but again, he's 4,800. JMO is just 5,000. We get a lot of these cheaper receivers. I don't know. I think Cooper Kupp to me is not a huge priority, but I probably want 15% is kind of my target there. Torrey Horton, 3,600, I think is playable. Again, looking at the route share report for the Seahawks, he has not really ascended. It's kind of been steady, but Torrey Horton, 59% route participation in that most recent game. Not a great matchup, but he can make a splash play and pay it off. And then I'm not going anywhere else on Seattle receivers. Realistically, I need to start making my lineups. This starts at 6, right? So I need to get on this. We'll go quickly through the tight ends. Cade Otton does a lot better when star receivers are out. Unfortunately for him, both Mike Evans and Egbuka are in, and unless they're limited, this 29% ownership is fine, I guess, but not like a huge priority. I think I'm going to have 20% each of Otton. At least 20%, I should say, of Otton and Laporta. And I'll probably have more of Schultz. I think Schultz might be the one to take the biggest stand on. So Otton, I don't know that I'll get to 29%. I'd be surprised if I get more than that of Otton. The role just not nearly as good. Even though he runs a ton of routes, does not get targeted much when there are star receivers out there. Sam Laporta, really strong role. 4,300 is a fine price tag for him. He's getting 47% ownership though. again, if we just look at the roles of like Sam Laporta compared to other tight ends here, I'll just pull up. So on the season, Otten, 21 targets, 73% route participation. So 21 there. Then you have Laporta is at 33 targets on 77% route participation. And then you have Schultz, 26 targets. And then finally, Barner, 18. Arroyo, 12. So Laporta kind of gapping the field as far as targets so far this year. Schultz actually closer than I thought he would be. But I think Laporta 47% in this matchup with Tampa Bay. Let's see. Tough matchup for Seattle. Strong matchup for Detroit. Mediocre matchup for Tampa. And then what was the last one? Oh, Houston. Actually, a nice matchup for Houston. So looks good for Schultz. So Schultz is probably the one that I'm going to take the biggest stand on. Positive stand on. I think I want to be over the field on Schultz. Again, he could benefit from Christian Kirk being out, as we noted. He also runs a lot of those slot routes, so we could see Schultz take on a bigger role as well. So I love Knoll at low ownership, but Schultz I also like quite a bit. Yeah, Aaron, thank you for the reminder. All right, we are. I need to get to making my lineups. So I'm going to start running some sims. I'm just going to refresh this one more time. Figure out how many lineups I have to make here. $196. All right. So again, going back to Monday, 2-gamer. Yeah, I guess so 10,000 full field. Diversified portfolio for 196. And I'll run that. And now I'm going to get right into the showdown, and I'm going to start running those sims right away. Just due to limited time here. So getting right into Tampa, Detroit. And again, before I make any changes, I just like to see what I'm going to get. So I'm going to do 15,000 lineups, full field, and how many lineups for this one? 181. Just need to make sure I at least get something in. I don't want to take zeros here. Hopefully I'll be able to adjust both. All right, good. We're already calculating payouts on the main slate. What did I end up ordering for dinner last night? A pulled pork. I got brasa rotisserie. What's it called? Pulled pork and over easy egg bowl. So it's like a rice bowl with like some spinach in it, and pulled pork and an over easy egg with some brasa sauce. Delicious for anybody who doesn't live in Minnesota. You might not know brasa, but they've got an awesome green sauce that they put on stuff. Really good. Brock Wright. I mean, I don't think I get there, but I have no issue with that. If you just want to bet on like the other tight ends fail and he scores a touchdown, I think that's fine. That would be a difference maker if the Texans offensive line starts playing like just average. That would be huge for everybody there. Higgins or Knoll? It's Knoll for me, but I honestly love both. All right, good. Looks like I might be able to adjust. If you had to pick 2 out of 3, who would you go with? Egbuka, Evans, or Rashad White? I think probably I'd go with Rashad White and Evans. Like Egbuka, I think is the one who scares me the most. Uh-oh, now is Shady doing this math in his head for both at the same time for my main slate and my showdown? He's just running the numbers for me. We gonna explode his beautiful mind. Thoughts on forcing a punt returner and DST? Good way to put in the lower owned guys. The problem is like you need more than 6 points. So if it's like a punt returner who doesn't play offensive snaps, I don't think it's that strong on a 2-game slate. Better for showdown, but like they look like they don't get a reception for it. They don't get any yards, so it's like literally just 6 points, and I don't think that's enough. So if it's a punt returner who also has some role on offense, sure, but if they're like just a special teamer, I probably wouldn't. All right, the first set of lineups are in, so I am going to download these and then keep looking at them. And hope that I have a ton of Jalen Noel. Otherwise, we're going to have to make some adjustments here. So give me 1 second. All right, we at the very least have lineups in. I would like to make some adjustments, potentially. All right. So top lineup is Baker Mayfield with Rashad White, Mike Evans, Kate Otten. Also has Jahmyr Gibbs, JMO, JSN, Dalton Schultz, and the Texans defense. Second lineup, Baker, Rashad White, Evans, Kate Otten with Dave Montgomery, JSN, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, Texans defense. I need to keep moving along, so I'm just going to look at my exposures now. I'm getting a 52% Baker, 5% Goff. I want more Goff than that. 25% Stroud, 18%. Darnold, I'm going to be making adjustments to my quarterbacks. Wide receivers, getting to a ton of JSN, not getting too much of Monroe. So currently not getting to what I want from Detroit. Going to make some changes there. 11% Higgins. I think I want, maybe that's fine, maybe more. Only 4% Noel, so need to make an adjustment there. I'd like more Tesla as well. Other big stands, I'm getting to a fair amount of Egbuka, a lot of Evans, a lot of JSN. All right, so I need to make adjustments there. Running backs getting to a ton of Rashad White, 54% Jahmyr Gibbs, 31% Charbonnet, 40% Montgomery, 7% Kenneth Walker, 14% Woody Marks. All right. Tight end, tons of Dalton Schultz, 24% Laporta, 29% Otten, 20% Barner, 5% Arroyo, 1% Harrison Bryant. And then defense is pretty spread out defense. That works for me. All right, I need to make some adjustments. So first of all, Detroit, I want more of the passing game. So I am going to, man, that's even with Goff project for just 31% ownership. I'm going to lower that even more. I'm going to decrease the rush rate slightly. Just slightly, just to 45%. I'm going to take away any market share from Khalif Raymond, who did not play in the last game. So I'm going to click Smart Adjust and give Khalif Raymond's target share to others. So I'm going to give that to Amon-Ra, Tesla, JMO. All right. Click normalize. Maybe that's enough to get more. Kind of want to give them more. I'll give them slightly bump in pace. I really like Detroit here, so I'm just going to give them. Okay, that's good enough. I got to be quick here. Getting to a ton of Egbuka even at 36% ownership. All right. I guess I'm fine with that. think I'm going to move some of this Dameon Pierce market share to Woody Marks. So I bring him down to a 10%, Marks up to 40%. Also going to smart adjust and give more work to Higgins and Knoll. Make the assumption that Hutchinson steps back a little bit. Also, I'm going to get rid of Brendan Bates. Hutchinson down to 10%. Slightly move up Higgins to, let's try Higgins and Knoll both to 12%. Schultz down to 19%. Yeah. Also bringing Knoll. I mean, this is the highest ownership share I've seen on Knoll. All right. I think I want to give Charbonnet or Walker more. We'll give him the birthday bump here for Walker. We're going to give him the 50% rushing market share. I think I'm good with that. All right. And now I will run it again. I think I've got time. And then to the showdown, while that's running, we got some showdown lineups. So let's get these in. All right. So I have, wait, how many lineups did I even run? Did I even do the settings here? Let me check this. 181. Oh, I did do it right. Okay, good. Smart. Did it as intended. Okay. So getting back, let me download those and then take a look at my lineups. Okay. This is all going pretty smoothly. These so that's good at least. I started this way later than I should have. We'll see if I'm able to adjust anything here. I care more about the second game. I think I have stronger takes on the second game for Showdown. So just taking what the Sims give me, I think is fine. But top Showdown lineup, I'm getting Emeka Egbuka, captain, Baker Mayfield, Chase McLaughlin, Lions defense, Jake Bates, Mike Evans, uses almost a full salary cap. Second lineup, Egbuka, Mayfield, Lions, Khalif Raymond, Evans, Rashad White. Let me look at my exposures because I'm wondering if I'm not getting. I think I like Tesla a little bit better than they might. I'm getting to 17, 18% total Tesla. 30% Raymond is a bit much. Only 8% JMO at 8,000, I guess. Tons of Egbuka. I have Egbuka in almost every lineup here. So he must not be projecting for much ownership, not much Amon-Ra. So I need to make some quick adjustments here. Getting to a lot of Rashad White, Jahmyr Gibbs, a little bit. Not enough. 27% Jahmyr Gibbs feels light. Not much Montgomery at 7,400, and then very little Sean Tucker. I mean, 9% Sean Tucker, I guess, is probably fine. Not a lot of Goff. All right. So again, there's something in the inputs where I'm not getting to. Oh, the rush touchdown rate for the Bucs. Need to move that up. That's the issue. That's probably the issue in the other one too. Okay, I'll need to double check that. Okay. Which I thought Adam had warned me about that earlier, but I thought that they had changed that. Okay, let's see here. Okay, good. I want more of the Lions in general. I'm just going to move their points scored up to 31, pace up to 60. I want more Amon-Ra. I'm just going to take this away from Raymond. Again, I'm not sure he's going to play. I'm going to make the assumption that what happened in the last game continues. So it's going to be more Tesla. Let's try that. All right. Hopefully that'll give me more of Goff also. Okay. Gonna call it good. Run this again. All right, the main slate, we are back to diversifying payouts. I'll double check on chat. Rush rate is 43%. Rush TD is 32%. Okay, I need to adjust that. All right, good. Got the lineups in. Let me look at these. Now I'm getting some Noel, looks like. Player exposures. Good. We brought up our Amon-Ra. Brought up our Noel to 20%. Higgins to 21%. Okay. 5% Tesla. This is closer to what I wanted. So I am going to download these. Again, this is how many for the main slate? 196. All right. Looks like maybe they fixed it for the main slate, just not the showdown. Okay. All right, got those lineups in. Let's take a look at this first one. Looks awesome to me. Jared Goff, Rashad White, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Noel, JSN, Sam Laporta, Dalton Schultz, Texans defense. I mean, that's my kind of lineup right there. Second lineup: Baker Mayfield, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, double Detroit running backs. Love that. Mika Egbuka, Mike Evans, JSN, Elijah Arroyo, Dalton Schultz, Texans defense looks great. So these are looking closer to my kinds of lineups. Let me just double check. Okay, rush touchdown rate for the Bucs is at 0%. So what did you say it's supposed to be? Maybe I need to change that. Yeah, I like Tesla over Raymond. Rush rate 43%, rush touchdown 32, 43-32. Was I getting to a ton of the receivers for the Bucs? 66% Evans, 42% Egbuka. I'm probably going to lose some of that. And then am I not getting too much of... Still getting to a ton of White, even with a low rate there. Interesting. Yeah, we're getting closer to where I want to be. I am going to try to run it one more time with these numbers incorrectly, and then think about changing them. How much is I getting to of JMO? I should just run it. Maybe I'll just go back to this and see if this works, but probably won't. Probably don't have time to be doing this, but I'll try. Let's look at the showdown. Crap. Emerald tried to remind me about the I looked at it before and I thought I saw like the one that there was a number in there for the rush rate and just thought that it had been fixed. As he says, Neil's 2-minute drill submission stressed me out like I have ownership. Don't stress out. I just need to have some lineups in there. I've got some lineups in there. So we're done. We're done stressing about it. If I'm able to change things again, great. If I'm not, who cares? I just want to make sure I got my Jalen Noel. The most frustrating thing is when I have like a super strong take and then don't get lineups in that reflect my super strong take. And my strongest take today is just like Noel and Higgins, I think are going way under-owned. And Noel in particular. But I've already got the pick 6 in. So we're good. And I really liked the Detroit stuff, and I wasn't getting Detroit, so I had to make change. We're all going to lose anyway. Exactly. I got to 20% null in my latest run, which I'm cool with that. I'm not sure that the lineups actually look good because I had the wrong rush rate in there for the Bucks. I was still getting to a fair amount of the Bucks, so I don't know. The correlations just won't work out perfectly if those numbers are wrong. All right, we got new lineups in. I think this is 181. So let me download these. All right, downloading these. Move this to, this is Showdown, right? Yeah. Okay, good. All right, we got some updated Showdown lineups in. Just double check. Yeah, that's not going to finish in time. That's cool. Updated Showdown. So the top lineup, sorry, exposures now for the Showdown slate. Top lineup now is Egbuka, Mayfield, Otten, Lyons, Evans, Tez. Second lineup, Egbuka, Baker, Tesla, Evans, White, Bucks. Let me look at my exposures. What I get to now of, so now I'm up to a ton of Tesla after making those changes. I'm happy with that though. I like Tesla on this slate. Probably more Egbuka than I need. I think I could have updated these ownership. So I guess I'm riding with Egbuka on the Showdown. Not a stance I really wanted to take. Yeah, don't love this lineup set for Showdown. If I'm being honest, not getting to a ton of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think I needed to make some more adjustments than I did, but we'll live with it. I at least have live lineups in there. I got more cheering for Tesla, cheering for Egbuka at this point. Rashad White, I guess, to an extent. Not my finest run. I've got more time for the other Showdown slate. So I'm going to do that one now. And this one I can take a closer look at the stuff before I get into it. So Houston, Seattle. The rates are all good here. Again, I'm going to start by running some sims, but let me first look at, and apologies for somebody had asked me to look at FanDuel. As I kind of worried, I did not have time, just as you saw here, didn't have time to even get my own lineups in. But I am going to attempt now to do a little breakdown of this second Showdown. But let's see. So just looking at it before I run anything, Woody Marks is 7,000, project for 19% ownership. That stands out as something I like. Pierce is maybe more playable if he's active. Pierce at 400, playable, I think, at 6% ownership. Nico looks good. Higgins, Noel looks awesome here. 8% ownership on Showdown at 2,800 for Noel. If we assume that he is the slot receiver, like give me, I don't know, 5x that on Noel. Give me 40%. Higgins also looks good though at 3,000, 23%. I think I want to be over that number. Hutchinson looks fine at 17% ownership. Walker 7,600, Charbonnet 6,600 here. Both getting about the same ownership. I don't have any real takes though. Those both seem kind of fine. Getting to JSN projected for a lot of ownership, but yeah, give me the JSN. Horton looks okay at double-digit ownership. I think he's still a strong play. Probably want to be above the 11% the field is getting to there. What was Schultz at? Schultz 4,600, getting 40% ownership. That seems fine. All right, let me run the sims here. 15,000 lineups. $174 I might have to enter more later, but we'll start with just doing these ones. Come on. There we go. So let me run them. Then I'll adjust after. Houston defense's captain. I mean, I keep on doing the like bet against Sam Darnold thing. I think just as a beleaguered Minnesota sports fan, I keep on thinking like Sam Darnold looks so bad at the end of last year. Surely he's going to implode at some point, and it just keeps not happening. But yes, I think Houston is a really tough defense. So regardless of the matchup, I think Houston defense a captain. That makes some sense. You guys are gonna have to let me know, is Egbuka even playing? No, I'll start watching soon enough. Calculating payouts. I'll probably just run the Sims 1 to 2 more times now and then get out of here. Reminder, if you're still here and you'd like to check out the Flaniverse Discord, it's free to join. Link is in the description of this video. I see Saul sent some notes from ChatGPT on, yes, significant risk of re-aggravation of the hamstring injury in the first game back. I think that's kind of what I was assuming, which does scare me for how much I was getting in the showdown unintentionally. How much did I get in the main slate? Oh no, I think I lost it now. I got to more than I wanted, frankly, of Egbuka. Like I am a little bit scared of that. All right, diversifying payouts. We're almost there. And then I will adjust. Anything happening in the game yet? Have they started? You're a funny guy, Sean. Gibbs' first play, 30-yard reception. Hell yeah. Jake says Egbuka is young and a house. CBI. Yeah, I mean, maybe. All right. First lineup here: JSN captain Stroud, Schultz, Damian Pierce, Sam Darnold, Zach Charbonnet. Second lineup: Nico Collins, CJ Stroud, Dalton Schultz, Harrison Bryant, JSN, Kami Fairbairn. I think I'm going to have to make some adjustments to these lineups. I think there are things that I'm going to like better, but we'll take a look at exposures. Quarterbacks getting to 62.1% CJ Stroud plus 10.9% at captain. So a lot of CJ Stroud, 52.3% Darnold plus 1.1% at captain, a little bit less. Running backs, 25% Charbonnet plus 2% at captain, 19% Walker plus 1% at captain. No real issue with those. Woody Marks, 13.8%. I think I'd like more. Nick Chubb, 2.9%. Damian Pierce, 19%. We'll have to make sure Damian Pierce is active. So I might have to adjust later on Damian Pierce if he's out. I guess like if he's active, we have to like he's cheap. He got 7 carries last game for 400. That does seem pretty good. Wide receivers, going to be making some adjustments here. JSN getting to a ton. 51% JSN captain, 28% flex. Nico Collins, 22% captain, 35% flex. No issue with either of those. I mean, I'll probably cut back a little bit on that JSN captain, but looks good. Cooper Kupp, 20% seems fine. Jaden Higgins, I want a lot more than the 2% I'm currently getting. Xavier Hutchinson, 5%. I want a little bit more. Torrey Horton, 22% seems fine. 27% Jalen Noel. So I'm glad to see that I'm getting a lot of Jalen Noel at a low price tag and no ownership. Wouldn't mind even a little bit more. Tight ends, I'm getting a 43% Dalton Schultz plus 10% captain, a 12% AJ Barner, 3% Elijah Arroyo, 21% Harrison Bryant, 1% Brendan Bates. Kickers, 28% Fairbairn, 25% Myers. That seems reasonable. Defenses, 15.5%. Seahawks plus 0.6 at captain. Texans, 18% plus 0.6 at captain. Those both seem fine. All right. So the biggest thing is I need to adjust some wide receivers. I think I want more Higgins. I want a little bit more Hutchinson, maybe a little bit more Knoll even. Maybe I want more Walker. Probably want more Marks. So I'm going to make some slight adjustments here. So first of all, I'm going to give Woody Marks more of the rushing work. I'm going to smart adjust, give Woody Marks 36%, Nick Chubb 30%. As far as receiving work goes, I'm tempted to just get rid of Brendan Bates. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of Brendan Bates because I don't really need to get any anyway. And I want to spread that out to the receivers. I want to give Knoll 12%, Higgins 12%. I'm going to bring Hutchinson. I mean, Hutchinson, I'm already not getting much. Okay, I'm already getting to so little Chubb. I wouldn't mind getting more Woody Marks. What do I want to do here? I'm getting to a ton of Schultz. I guess I'm like right with the field, maybe. See if I click normalize. Does that do it? All right, so that brings me to 19.3 to 11. Yeah, maybe I'll try this. And then I kind of wanted more. I guess give Marks more of the rushing market share. Maybe more. I'm again gonna give Walker the birthday bump. Give him a 48% rushing market share and Charbonnet 40%. It's not really a birthday bump. It's really because I kind of think at some point they're going to like listen and just give more work to their most efficient running back, just like holding out hope that they do that. All right. I'm going to try that. Just run it like that. %95 Amon-Ra St. Brown. See, that's what I wanted. St. Brown touchdown. Oh, let's go. How much did I actually end up with though? Because I liked him. He was my favorite play of the slate, and I didn't end up with nearly as much as I wanted. So let me see what I actually got. I think I ended up with over 50% though, but not on the showdown. I think the showdown I'm dead because I didn't give myself enough time. All right, let's see. Yeah, my favorite play on the slate scored a touchdown. I'm currently losing money, so that's not ideal. That's what happens when you do content and don't realize until 20 minutes before the slate starts that you have to do two different sets of lineups. I do a 53% Amon-Ra on the main, 50% Gibbs, 27% Goff. So I corrected somewhat. I've got two lineups in the main right now that have look like they have Goff and Amon-Ra. So that's good. And Gibbs. Okay, that's good. I am under the field on Goff, Amon-Ra, and Gibbs, despite loving them. So that's not ideal. But hopefully others in the Flannelverse will take it down tonight. As he says, I increased Woody's receiving market share, so many pass for that tonight. True. Agreed. About 1 billion people have the same lineup in 80K minimax, including me, says Sean. All right, let's get this in there. All right, good luck. Good luck, AC. Yeah, I'm probably just going to do this sim, maybe one more, because I got to get out of here and order some food. I am hungry. Tonight, I might actually do pizza. Not totally, like, not 100% getting pizza. I might do like India House or something. Love me some good Indian food, and then I can get enough for leftovers. It's really good for leftovers, so I might do that instead. But still living the bachelor life. So gonna order something. All right, calculating payouts. I mean, 32-63 tie for first. That could be just like we don't have a ton of players yet scoring points, so that might not be that they're all duped. Good luck with your 93% Rachaad White. That's a lot of Rachaad White. Chicken vindaloo. I do I love garlic naan. I do palak paneer and chicken tikka masala is my go-to. A little bit of spice in the chicken tikka masala for me. I do a pretty bland palak paneer. And then, yeah, garlic naan. Sometimes a mango lassi if I'm really, feeling like I want to lead into the experience. Love mango lassis with my Indian food. Chicken vindaloo, maybe I'll try that. I don't think I've tried it at there's a place that's called India House is where we go in St. Paul. It's very good. Spicy rice. Yeah. I mean, I don't get the spiciest curries or foods, but I like a little bit of spice in there. All right. First lineup, JSN captain, CJ Stroud, Dalton Schultz, Jaden Higgins, Sam Darnold, Seahawks defense. Second lineup, Nico Collins, CJ Stroud, Dalton Schultz, Texans defense, Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet. So we got the double Seattle running back. Do we see? Okay, Noel in the fifth lineup here. So good to see that. Oh no, the third has Noel. JSN captain, Cup, Jalen Noel, Kaimi Fairbairn, Sam Darnold, Woody Marks. Love it. That's an awesome lineup. Does leave only 300 on the table. But now my player exposures, quarterback, still getting to a lot. Not a ton of Sam Darnold at captain, but that's whatever. Wide receivers, still 55% captain JSN. I might cut that back a little bit later, but about 50% total. Nico Collins, 15.5% at captain, 34.5% in the flex. Looks good. 18% Cooper Kupp. We're still at just 7.5% Jaden Higgins. I have to up that. I'm now at 55% Jalen Noel. That might be a bit more than I want. 3% Xavier Hutchinson, 13% Torrey Horton. So I think I'll probably try to cut back on Noel a little bit to get a little bit more of Jaden Higgins. I think this is because we have a huge difference in the ownership and I have them projected the same. So just going to get a lot more of the guy who's projected for lesser ownership. So I'm going to try to adjust to get to down to, maybe 40% Noel and up to 25, 30% Higgins. I think they're both really strong plays. Hutchinson, I probably want more than 3% also, so I'll try to adjust that. Tight end, still getting a lot of Dalton Schultz, over 40%, 12% Barner, 7% Arroyo, 11% Harrison Bryant. At running back, I am at 26% Walker, plus 1% at captain, 19% Charbonnet, plus 1% at captain, 21% Woody Marks, 0 Nick Chubb right now. That scares me a bit. 14% Dameon Pierce, That looks good, but I think I'll probably want more Chubb. Kickers, 28% Fairbairn, 32% Myers. Defense, 12% Seahawks, 15% Texans. I am going to do another run of the Sims, but I am going to wait until we get inactives to do it, I think. So I'm going to end the video because I need to go get myself some food, and I'm realizing like there's no point in continuing to do this because I need to wait until we have inactives, because I want to see if we actually have Dameon Pierce. It's kind of a worthless exercise to do all this when I have to wait another hour for over an hour for inactives. But if you want to get updates later, you can of course join the Flaniverse Discord. Let me know if you have questions. If you need to find the inactives, I can post them there. Free to join, link in the description of this video. Appreciate all of you hanging out for me while I'm making my lineups, talking through the slate. Should be a fun one. Hopefully we win some money tonight. Good luck, everybody. Let's get it. I'll be back tomorrow with Mathology. We'll be doing the Dog Bowl stuff, and then again on Thursday for Thursday Night Football. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Thanks, everybody, and I will catch you next time.